Your worries, your anxieties, your good times, your bad times, information that you get. My name is Muthusi, presenter with Capital FM, The Boys Live, and I'm joined by Angela Mwirigi, the great Angela Mwirigi, Digital Financial Services Director at KCB Bank. And today, our conversation is on responsible borrowing and what you need to know about loans and stuff like that. Karibu, Angela.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let me ask you something first.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you first. Digital Financial Services, now that we've given you props, what does that do in KCB?
See, you're the guy who never sticks to a script. This was not in the script.
Yes.
Okay. Why do digital financial services? That's your question.
Just prop it up. What's digital financial services? Digital
financial services is the ability to access your financial products, meaning your money products.
Right.
You are on digital products like mobile, internet banking, whatever you want, whatever gadget or device you have available to you.
Okay, and sticking to that script, the products that KCB offers on digital platforms for borrowing and stuff like that.
Okay, just for borrowing. For borrowing, we have about 4 or 5 consumer loan products, ranging from everything, KCB M-Pesa, Fuliza, KCB mobile loan for KCB banked customers. We have Vuma loan for Vuma wallet holders. And all of them, the different limits you get are based on what exactly you spend or what we can see about what you do on the different platforms. Okay. Then, of course, we also have business loans. We have retailer financing. We have MSME loan, which goes all the way from 1 day to 1 year. Right. We have overdraft products, overdraw products. That means you can overdraw your KCB bank account, and you can actually request that from the phone, whether you're an agent, a merchant, a business owner that's just banked with us. So I mean, we cover everything.
Okay, good. So now, let me tell you something. This thing of responsible borrowing. Right person to have a conversation with you and even me, because let me tell you something. I've borrowed responsibly, I've borrowed irresponsibly, I've been chased and stuff like that. So let me ask you, simple and straight, what is responsible borrowing?
So responsible borrowing is borrowing within your ability to repay.
Okay.
Most people, the fundamental problem they don't understand is actually all a bank wants to know is your ability to repay and your willingness to repay. Very important that you be willing.
Okay.
Because there's people with questionable character. I'm not assuming that's where you are. I'm assuming your irresponsible one was based on ability to pay. So critically, it is don't spend beyond your means. Don't borrow more than what you can't repay. Okay. If you cannot pay the debt, don't take the debt. Especially not from a formal financial institution, because it follows you. It's very difficult to get rid of that smell. It just goes following you everywhere you're going. So even if you go from this bank to the next bank, Kenya's infrastructure is good enough that you can be tracked.
Right. So there's a lot of influx of a lot of digital loan products, things like that. I mean, all over the place. I mean, if you even mention to your Simu, Big Brother is listening, something about money, I'm sure I'm going to start seeing ads and stuff like that. Now let me give you a story. This thing of being followed. There's a time I borrowed, right? Then, due to some circumstances, things happen to everyone.
Yes.
Like about 2 months or something, I think I had defaulted, right? But that loan was paid.
Yes.
So I check into KCB M-Pesa.
Yes.
I'm trying to borrow money. They say, Z.
You, the man who is working on the campaign for KCB M-Pesa.
Yes.
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah, I did that. We had a life in advertising.
Yes.
When we did Weka, all those things. So I tried to borrow. I said, no, you've been listed. But I'm like, I've not been listed. I've paid that other loan. See, it's done. So now why are you guys freezing me, chums?
Yeah, so the problem is that because these are systems, it's very difficult to give individualized parameters.
Right.
So we just put the rules that govern the entire ecosystem.
Okay.
So we say we've put a business rule in that says if you've ever been listed in CRB, even if you have cleared, it might be difficult for you. We put you in a blacklist level.
Right.
So if you defaulted only for 2 months, you'd probably not be in a very bad blacklist level, like someone who did not pay until over a year later. So someone who is on blacklist level 2, which is what we call that, when someone is just defaulted for about 60 days past due date, limit.
Okay.
We do try to lend that group again, but what happens is that your limit goes down significantly, which I'm sure you must have experienced.
Yeah.
And at the time you were telling us, by the way, we hadn't learned those nuances.
Okay.
So what has happened in Kenya is that we've been at this digital lending business for quite a while now.
Okay.
So Kenya has really figured out little nuances to make things easier, better for people, understand our people better, remove the instant reaction of, hey, if you didn't repay, then we cannot lend you.
Right. And
so we've realized life happens, like you said, life happens. So now we've started to ease some of those rules. Some of them, we're actually tightening them more. Where you found, like we used to say that when you joined KCB M-Pesa, most people can tell you in 2015, 2016, the limit we were giving was 20,000.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not good. We lost our shots. That was not clever. So we learned that you need to divide people into groups.
Right.
You need to improve the entry level limits.
Okay.
Also, don't make it too low, like some people who have significant amounts of cash moving there through the M-Pesa.
Okay.
They join and then they find they only have 2,500. So we said, no, let's start them off at 10K, you know. So all those are improvements we have made with time.
And it's obviously for the benefit of that person, because we're trying to help you.
The benefit is for the customer, because we don't want the customer to end up in a rat. So in fact, you remember when digital loans first came out, what happened? Most people were taking from Peter to pay Paul to pay Mary.
Yes.
So they were getting stuck in a cycle.
Yes.
And there is no hope of you being able to get suddenly enough money to be able to pull yourself out of that hole.
Exactly.
So, and I blame the entire industry. We did that because we all jumped in and then we were all giving loans.
Yeah.
And the limit, you're here, Teddy, on KCB M-Pesa, then I have Teddy again on KCB Mobile Loan.
Yeah.
Then every other bank is still offering you, all of us. We kind of did what happened to Americans and credit cards. Everyone is offering you one, so eventually you end up in a rat. Okay. So we started to shift back and pull a lot of that back, even from our own learnings.
So now something that you mentioned there was CRB. The things that Kenyans fear, some words, and we don't understand what they are. The things like KRA, you're out, you bounced. CRB, what the, you know?
I hear you.
Okay, so let me ask you.
Yeah.
So CRB is the one that's giving you this information. What is CRB?
Okay, so first of all, it's a law that Kenya put in.
Right.
So first, it's their businesses. There are 3 of them actually, main ones in Kenya. There are credit reference bureaus. And by the way, it's a wonderful thing for Kenya. What Kenyans don't understand is, you see, like now I've been thinking about going into other markets and we want to put up those products in these other countries. But because there is no infrastructure to support, you're very nervous about how much to give. So if you're a sound borrower, and you want the convenience of digital, you shouldn't have to be tortured because there is no way for me to check who bad borrowers are. First thing. And then second thing, if you have 0 credit history, if you've never borrowed from KCB, how will I know to lend you on digital and I have 0 history? There is no way for me to gauge whether or not you're good or bad. But in Kenya, I can get the history of your life, of your credit history for every single bank or institution, MFI, SACCO you've ever borrowed from. And that can tell me, no, Teddy is someone you should trust, and you can give them a limit instantly from the minute you actually join the service. That is only possible because CRBs exist. So they're not just a stick, they're also a carrot.
It's protecting you.
Yeah, it's protecting you, and it's giving you a chance to actually be able to access credit even when there's no history. I believe you had when the president was talking about why he was concerned about CRBs, because the way the Kenya, why in fact the Hustler Fund was set up was because of how Kenya was organized. So Kenya was organized that if you didn't go to school and therefore could get a halfway decent job, and so you can acquire something you can take to the bank to get a loan, there was no way you could access a loan. You needed collateral. Either you inherited it or you worked for it, then you took that collateral to the bank, then the bank was willing to give you credit. And credit is important. Because if you're earning 100, you can't own something of 500 without credit.
Exactly. So you see that thing that people say. In fact, there's an in-law of mine, Arma Nanke, who was saying, usiogope loan.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Don't freak out on loans, because like that thing of like it gives you access to, you know, like the thing of
you can progress.
Yes.
You can't progress without. My mother is a banker, or was a banker rather. She's retired now. But she used to tell me the most sensible thing you can do for yourself is leverage credit so that you can move from this income level to this income level.
Right.
Yeah, so you can't grow your income if you can't buy the plot, if you cannot buy the car so that you can go and show up at an interview looking proper.
Yeah.
You need credit so that you can go and buy a home, even if it takes you 20, 30 years to pay for it, or you pass the loan on to your kids. The point is, through that entire time, you lived in a lovely home. Yeah.
True.
And that was the whole point of life. You shouldn't go through life just struggling. So credit is extremely important.
Okay.
And in fact, if you look at their economies, China, the US, Europe, that is how those economies are run. The people in those countries leverage their future ability to live well today.
Yeah, because it's like, there's kind of like a thing. I mean, that's the song we all sing nowadays on social and stuff like, yeah, we've borrowed again. We've borrowed again as a country. We keep on borrowing.
Yes, but we have to borrow responsibly.
Yeah.
Again, this is really critical. Ability to pay.
Right.
And willingness to pay.
Okay. So now, you said about CRB. What happens to me when I get blacklisted by CRB? What's a blacklisting? So
if you get blacklisted, it means that you have defaulted on your debt. So one of the financial institutions you've taken money from has then submitted your name as a defaulter.
Right.
Now, being a defaulter is a problem. And you know, defaulting levels vary by institution and by loan type. It depends on what you borrow. There are no standardized rules for defining defaulting. So when that institution, whatever agreement they made with you, you have failed to honor it, then you have defaulted, you get listed at the Credit Reference Bureau. Me, because I am integrated, I am connected to the Credit Reference Bureau. When I query your ID and name, it tells me whether or not you have defaulted. If you have defaulted, I get nervous instantly about lending you money, because that's the rule I've put in the system. Do not lend if this person has defaulted another institution's debt, because that might either be willingness or ability.
Okay. So
don't know which it is.
There are three things. There's a positive listing, a negative listing,
and a neutral
listing.
Yes.
What is that?
So neutral is you've just taken a loan. You're beginning to build your credit history, which is critical, because if you've never taken a loan, then I don't know what kind of person you are. So that is what we call a behavioral scorecard. So when you first join, like when you join KCB M-Pesa first, we do what we call an application scorecard, which we just take how much airtime do you use, data, what do you do on M-Pesa, then we give you a score.
Transactions,
then we say, so what do you generally do? Then we say, sawa, based on that, mpatia entry level credit limit. So you get your entry level credit limit. If you never use it, then we can never change your limit. So it just stays there flat. So, but if you've been borrowing and using other people's products, or even using that product, now we have behavioral information about you, and that's what we use on the behavioral scorecard to say whether your limit should go up or should go down. Right.
So it's not just a vibe, like a marketing term of the more you borrow,
the
more you whatever. So if basically
the more you borrow, the more you borrow, the better, the higher your limit.
Right.
That's the line,
Right. So if I've never asked for chums, I've never asked for color from, I've never borrowed from anywhere,
then we don't know your character.
So borrow.
Yeah.
So that you can borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow.
Well, let me be honest. The idea, the critical thing is you don't just say borrow, borrow, borrow. It is very important that, which is why we've started now to start to tie it to services, to tangible things.
Okay.
So that's why we want you to borrow, because you're doing something substantive. For instance, we are now building a service with Safaricom where you can borrow so that you can buy a phone. And then we give you monthly installments, and then you can pay, and we pay them off. Then you're left dealing with us, and we can, and we ensure then you have a phone. Now, the assumption here is that you're going to use that phone to do something substantive and proper with your life, not just wander around social media. Point being, if we can give you credit, then you can improve your life. We have a lot of Kenyans who borrow at 2, 3 a.m. or 5, 6 a.m. And we used to think, what are these guys doing with it? A lot of them actually were the mothers buying the bogas.
Right.
And then they go marikiti, and then by the time the person fikishas it to their shop, or they are paying for the mosquito runs of the milk coming in, those are the stories we are extremely proud of. The guy who is amkaing very early because he wants to go to the Mjengo site to go and work. We love that. That's why the credit limit starts at 50 bob. So our intention, the credit is supposed to start changing the economy of the country. Small business owners don't need shocking amounts of money.
Yeah.
And without products like this, they don't have access to the right level of credit they're looking for.
And you're right. See, it's always been, what is that thing that it used to be called a kadogo economy?
Yes.
For today, and then you build, and then you build,
then you
like
move from the kadogo, so you stop being a micro businessman.
Yeah.
Well, start off a nano businessman.
Yeah.
That means very, very tiny.
Yeah.
And then you go to a micro, then you go to a small business owner, then you go to a medium business owner, then you're a mid-corporate, then you're a corporate. Like this one, 127 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, let me ask you this. So I've defaulted. Things have become thick. I don't know what, I don't know what to do. Right?
Yeah.
Like in terms of digital services, right?
Yeah.
I say like traditional banking, what do they used to do? Do they you call somebody, negotiate? What do you do?
No. Okay. If you default and you've been listed, you get you pay off the debt, and you can pay off the debt now. And you want to build a name of good standing again.
Yeah, but
so what you do is, once you pay off that debt, you pull out that credit report. Most likely, most of the banks, and the reason you want to go to the bank is because they have the best price loans.
Right.
So because if you go to the other guys, they just might take your shot on interest alone. So what we tell people is, take that credit report. If you go into the branch will listen to you. And KCB is in every single town.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of towns are built just around the KCB branch. So it's right. Go into the branch. Doesn't matter where you are in this country. They will lend you as long as you have a clean credit report. Okay. Yeah. And now you have credit history. Yes, a bit checkered. But now you're talking to a human being, not a system.
Right.
So the branch will listen, most likely will give you even a personal unsecured loan.
Okay, so this is my situation. So it's always just talk to the institution.
Yes, talk to the institution. I don't know why people think banks are not. Banks are all over, and the reason they put in all those branches is so that you have somewhere to go to and another Kenyan to go and talk to.
Right.
So once you go talk to that Kenyan, unapatia your clean credit reference bureau report, most likely they'll even pull one for themselves from the bank. Yeah. The bank will pull your credit report. They say, okay, so that's what happened, but you're clean now. All right, Sawa. So how much do you need? Can you show how you're going to be able to repay? Then you get back on. And once you're back on the horse, after a while, we clean up the system, and then you'll find that you can access the digital loans again.
That's cool. I mean,
but you need the history.
Yeah.
You see, the history is so important.
No, it does clear, because even like the thing I was telling you when I was being frozen on KCB and then now, I've managed. Now, let me ask you something. There's something you talked about interestingly, and this is more of just about that thing of borrowing habits, right?
Yeah.
Because there's that thing of, okay, so there's this one that I'm owed. Watch, I go to this other app, I borrow, I pay this one. Watch, I go to this one now and this one, and I'm just playing around on the 14th and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ebu, that tabia
is very dangerous, because in all of them, you're compounding your interest. Right. So because you're compounding your interest, you're going to end up with ballooned debt. That ballooned debt in its totality, there is no way for you to clear it in total.
Get out of it,
And every time you're adding to it, you're making it bigger. Right? Even if you're clearing, because now you're paying interest, and the more time, every time you take, you're charged an access fee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So of 2%, 3%. So unaongeza tu hapo, you're just piling up the size of this debt, and eventually it will become unmanageable. Then what happens? Default.
Yeah.
And then now you're blacklisted everywhere. And how does your life progress from there?
So it doesn't happen like that. That thing of like, there's no way you guys will catch me. You will be found.
Yeah, you will be found. Kwanza, this is Kenya. You will be found very fast. Then now that's when you start embarrassments of people, giving your name to debt collection agencies. Then debt collection agencies are calling you. And then we can't necessarily control all of them. So some of them even write to employers. Some write to us over here. It's kind of embarrassing. No, delete quickly.
I've seen that thing. Guys are needing for guys start calling you.
And calling
Adrian I'm like, who is this guy? Where can my name? As a
reference.
Like that. Okay. So so are there specific strategies or tools that guys can use to ensure you borrow responsibly?
So I tell people all the time, the critical thing to learn to do, it's a simple thing. Can you run a cash flow statement? Meaning, check how much you have coming in, how much you need to going out, and then match them. Even if you have to do so every month you write how much do I expect to come in. Most people don't get that much difference, or even daily. Mine runs daily. You see how much, tutalipwa where is some passive income coming from, tulinua infrastructure bond, tulinua nini, what is it, kuna rent inaingia ama something, you know, something. And then now you map and make sure, okay, I'm clear about what's going to come in, I'm clear about what I'm going to spend it on. Now that doesn't mean that you won't trip up. You'll trip up, you're human. Especially if you're me, you will definitely spend a bit more here and there. Sometimes I'm good, sometimes not so good. So when I'm not so good, at least I try to know exactly where did I take it, how much did I not spend responsibly, and then I can put myself back on track. Because I tell my guys even all the time, the most important thing you can do is start to plan your life as early as possible. Okay. Now, I didn't build that financial discipline. Let me not lie to you. I'm not claiming I was like that. Yeah, working in a bank. You know, I feel you. Working in a bank, I didn't always work in a bank, so that common sense wasn't always with me. Right. But I have learned, and by the way, it doesn't matter when you start. Because once you start and you build the muscle, you can continue. And when you build that muscle, it means you can start to change what your future looks like. I always tell people, the worst thing is when you stop working and then your lifestyle is far poorer than it was when you were working. What was the point of working? What was the point? What was the point if you did not, when you had the strength and the youth and the vibrance to build so that when you're old and throwing your teeth at people, at least you're able to buy some decent teeth to throw at people. You know what I mean? So I keep saying, plan. Teeth to throw at people. Yes. Very important. So it is critical to plan yourself well. Just plan. Do a cash flow. And see what comes in, what goes out. Make sure what comes in, you're very happy. Make sure what goes out is pretty much what you are planning to let go out. It should be in the range. And that's it's in your control. You're the one who is deciding what's going out. So if you can do that, even if you're planning that I'm going to inject my borrowing, make sure also don't borrow for the sake of it. Don't borrow without a plan of where that money is supposed to go. Actually, that's the biggest mistake most people make. The money comes in. Don't borrow for consumption. Don't borrow without a plan. Now, I get it. Sometimes you have to borrow for consumption. But then plan how to get rid of that debt as quickly as possible. What do you mean consumption? So consumption is shoes. Right. Nice kicks over there. Thank you. Yeah. You wanted some nice clothes. You wanted some, you remember how we said we are not going to use ancient terms, so I'm staying far away from slang. Threads. And raros. So don't spend money on such things. I mean, food is an essential, and if you don't have money for food, you just gotta get some money for food. But then figure out how to pay that money back, or go get some work. This is a gig economy. For crying out loud, there are people who are delivering food services every day. So even young people, when they tell me they are unable to find something to do, I look at them and I just think in my head, you're just bloody ass lazy. Then I move on. But that's my point. Plan. Yeah, as long as you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. Just be aware of what is coming in, what is going out. Yeah, because in fact, like the thing that you were saying when you're saying actually those guys of borrowing from 3 a.m. The first thing, because of back in lifestyle, you know, me, I'd have thought it's a guy who needs to pay a bill in the bar. Right. That is not a good use. That is consumption. Okay. So when you see you're spending most of your income or you're borrowing for consumption, you need to have a conversation with yourself. Self, this is bad in living. So how do we move away from this? How do we change our lives? How do we plan so that we don't end up with a lot of regret? Because I accept when people are young, when you're young, you deviate. But the key is to start shifting it back on track. Okay. So that sounds like okay, there's a thing for individuals. And what about businesses? Yes. The psychology of borrowing for businesses, or what is the right responsible practice? But even with business, you do know you're taking for working capital. Most people borrow for working capital. And the critical thing, the first step most businesses must do is learn how to separate personal and business. Yes. Personal money, business money. Now, let's say you're clever enough to have at least done that basic rule. Okay. So, your business needs money. You're looking for working capital for it. You get the working capital, you inject into the business. Things don't always work out in the time that they should. Business is like that. I hear them, people talking about it all the time. Me, I've tried hustles, hard life to go through. So, your hustle isn't paying out in time. You don't have another means of covering that hole, and the money was borrowed. So, when you were borrowing that money, and you knew it could go sideways, what was your plan? Option 1. Option 2, you didn't think it through. Now the money is due. Okay. So do you have another place you can get that money so that you can get rid of that debt, so that you do not spoil your ability to borrow in the future for a long time? Because it's yes, you might not spoil it forever, but you really don't even want that bad period.
Right.
Because it kind of stretches on, and banks have long memories. So how do you get yourself out of that? Is there a way you could get yourself out of that? Right? Hey, if family friends have refused to be supportive, then you know you're where you are. So now you're starting to think through, how do I quickly bridge that time frame? Because time is the one that's the enemy of debt. So you don't want, or walk into the bank, which by the way is my biggest recommendation. Walk into the bank. Have a conversation with the banker. Explain your story and your situation. It would be good to have some proof. Don't just come with a nice story. See if you can get that debt restructured. And if you can do that, they will listen. In fact, they really truly appreciate the customer who comes and says, look, I'm going through a harsh time. This is my sharas. This is how much I took from you guys. Could we work it out? I know I'd said I would clear it in a year. Can we change that? Can we move this from being an overdraw to a term product, so that we say, give me another year to try and clear this debt, and these are the payments I will make every month. Most people don't understand that is your absolutely best option.
So that's...
In fact, stay away from family and friends. Those guys start nyiraying at you at every dinner. It's not worth it.
This one, they're explaining that.
It lacks seriousness. You don't want to be treated like that. Like that.
So wait. What is that thought that I had? That one just petered. Because there was something I was trying to figure out. Because I was saying this is the thing. I mean, I've seen or those experience those things that. So the advantage of a strong financial institution, KCB for example, is that thing of relationships, right? They'll listen because
they will listen. I've
seen those stories when, and I'm not dissing any other thing, but it's what happens because there are a lot of ninis that come for you like now.
They come to get your chickens and chattels and sofas. No, we can't do that. It's difficult to do that. Quite honestly, even getting someone to sell them is... That's not the business we are in. The business we are in is of lending. Our interest is to grow the customer, because if the customer can ride that wave, that will be your customer always. So we have that philosophy within the organization. You come, you talk to the bank will listen.
So let's get into like more of like KCB, like digital loan products. Let's go through them. So first, let's talk about Vuma. Tell me about this Vuma thing again.
So with Vuma, our intention was to create a wallet where people could onboard very easily. So you have a national ID, you dial *844, which was supposed to be easy to remember because of the education system. People have been guessing a bit badly about that code. I am not happy with them. But see, you know how people have opinions. Anyway, point is, it's easy to remember. So once you dial it, you put in your ID. If we have you, in fact, because we have registered almost every single Kenyan on one product or the other. So joining it is the easiest thing in the world. So after you join, if you use it for a while, or you have KCB accounts or savings or things like that, if we can see any of your cash flows, we put a credit line on it. And the idea is actually right now we are revamping the platforms for the bank, the mobile platforms for the bank. Our intention is to put in lifestyle-based, really nice. You give us a shout around September. We'll be having some spectacular-looking apps. So Vuma will be one of those that will benefit from that effort.
So let me ask you. So Vuma operates. So what's a digital wallet?
So a digital wallet just means that you can e-money. It's M-Pesa, really. You can just store your money on it. So the benefit with it is that you're able to control it. We're actually rolling out Forex on it as well, so you can be able to have a dollar wallet, a euro wallet. For those who know what they are going to do with them.
And like somebody was asking, just when we were prepping for this, as in digital services, so whichever country you are in the world,
it doesn't matter where you are. Now you want to be able to pay your electricity for your mama over here. You can just pay it from there. You want to send her tokens, you can just buy from there directly. So we don't care where you are geographically. As long as you have a Kenyan ID, there's no reason you shouldn't have a Kenyan wallet.
There's also KCB M-Pesa. M-Pesa.
Yeah.
Then we know that's...
Yeah. So that's just take your M-Pesa transactions. We assign a limit based on your M-Pesa transactions. You can save on it as well. We pay, I think, about 8.5% interest on it.
Okay.
For any savings where someone has actually put in fixed savings.
Right.
Not just because you left the money lying there. I'm sorry, we won't pay you any interest if you just leave the money lying there. But if you put it in fixed savings, we will. So the point there is actually it's an instant credit product. So we are putting in some extensions of the loan tenors on it, so that you can borrow for 1 day, because now today, if you take a KCB M-Pesa loan, even if you pay us back within a day, you still pay for the 30 days. So we are changing that. But on KCB mobile loan, we have already put in that. So if you borrow for a day, you only pay 1.2%.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else have I missed? KCB mobile loan. That's like if you're a KCB customer.
If you're a KCB bank account holder, every single customer of KCB has a credit limit on mobile. Whether you join, as long as you're on mobile banking and you access, you'll find your credit limit there, because we score the entire customer base and give them a credit line.
Business loan products on digital?
So if you're a KCB agent, you have a credit line for float.
Okay.
You know, what's the most frustrating thing when you go to an agent and then it's a seen float?
Kwanza that kasura, I don't know. It's not my fault.
Yeah,
sorry. Sorry then.
Yeah, so we built both for M-Pesa agents and KCB agents. And the intention is that we don't want no more of that experience, and the price is just 0.2% for them to pay.
Do you have like a success story? Like, remember, like how you're talking about Kina Mama Mboga, somebody that you guys have seen who started like with a K to 2K to see what, and they are where now?
Oh, there are millions of them. There are so many. Where we took the credit up. We've taken for so many people. Remember, we've been at this since 2015.
Yeah.
Well, this is what, almost 10 years later. Yeah, credit limits have shot through the roof. In fact, what we should do is just give you a video clip of people then talking about how the credits have changed their lives. My own, although that's not useful because it sounds as if I have biased myself. But the system doesn't actually care. Even if you're the one who it's your job to work there, the system doesn't care. It bases it on your behavior. So as long as you're borrowing and repaying, as long as you're saving with the bank, your limit will go through the roof. In fact, one of the reasons we had to increase for KCB mobile loan to enable it to go up to 1 year. We are intending to get to 3-year loan you can get on the phone.
Really?
But why not? I mean, quite honestly, how does a teller know you any better than the phone knows you?
Okay.
Right?
So let me start asking some questions that have been sent through. So I have an existing loan. Am I allowed to say the guy's names? No.
No, just leave the guy's name alone.
So, anyway.
Guys can log in and see his name.
I have an existing loan. Can I top it up? And how safe is it compared to an overdraft?
Okay, so those are like, that's the question is all over the place. So if you have an existing loan on our, I believe it's on KCB mobile loan, you can top up. We've not enabled, I believe, top up on KCB M-Pesa. So there's a difference. We have top up and roll over.
Okay.
So when you reach that day 30, and you're not able to, and you're not sure you can pay that loan, you can roll it over another month. So that one is on KCB M-Pesa.
Okay.
Good, so I was right. On KCB mobile loan, we have top up. So what that means is, let's say your credit limit is 100K. So you took 50.
Okay.
You still have a limit of 50K. You took the 30-day loan, you said you'll pay on the 31st.
Okay.
You can come and take the other 50K, but it is still all due on the 31st. That's a top up. Yeah. So 100 is due on 31st.
Okay.
Yes.
So I guess maybe what this this person is asking was, I think that thing of the difference between a top up an overdraft.
Okay, so an overdraft, and it's an overdraw, because what you're doing is overdrawing your account.
Overdrawing your account.
An overdraft, you actually go into the bank and you agree to set a credit limit over and above your bank account. But an overdraw is what we have, Fuliza, MSME overdraw. We have a lot of overdraw. Almost all our wallets and bank accounts have overdraws. Which means you can take just above, you can go to negative. So we set how much can you overdraw up to. But an overdraft, you go to the bank and you say, give me a 1 year overdraft of 1 million shillings. Then you and the bank sign, and you can spend up to 1 million shillings on top of your account for the year. Okay. That's an overdraft. But an overdraw is when I say you can spend, yes, over a mic, but every time money comes in, I'm be taking the money back. That's an overdraw.
Okay.
So you can get an overdraw. So it depends on the service, but you have to opt in for these services. We can't just put it on you, because you'd be very pissed off. You didn't know.
Okay.
So you have to ask.
Okay. Here's another one. So I cleared my car loan from another bank.
Yeah.
Can I use the history of that payment to get another loan now in KCB, even though I've never borrowed from them?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the whole point. That's why I say it's the beauty of Kenya with its CRB system, that I can see that car loan he took in that bank, and because he kept up his payments properly on that, here I'll give him an instant credit line.
Okay. And we'll just ask, we've been candid. There's a girl that said, I've been banking with you guys, but why can't I get a loan in your bank? But I think we answered that.
But has he been banking? Why he has been banking? If he has been banking with us and he has a credit history, then if he has cash flow, cash coming in and out consistently, he can get a limit. So I'm not sure what has happened with him, but tell him he can reach out. Go to the customer, whatchamacallit, of KCB, 0711082000. Call our contact center, and then they'll route you to DFS.
Okay. I don't have any loan since 2018. Why can't I borrow again?
Why not?
Okay. I think that, maybe
their limits are at zero. Yeah. So that could happen. What happened during the pandemic was that we did zero rate people who are not using their credit limits. Largely because you recall, CRBs were frozen, right?
Okay.
During the 2020, 2021, the president of the country at the time froze that we cannot list anyone. What that meant to banks is there is no mechanism for me to compel people to respond appropriately. So if you've never borrowed, that means I don't know whether you'll repay. So they got zero rated. Now, with a lot of them, we returned the credit limits. Maybe that one fell through the cracks. Walk into a KCB branch, find out where is your credit limit.
Okay. Another question, I think almost relating to that situation I had. Once you have been listed on CRB by KCB, then you pay. How long does it take before being given another mobile loan? Because the same thing.
I hear you. So that one, the best approach, like I said, walk into a branch with your clean record. And then start the history again. Because what will happen is the system now will see, since you cleared what you defaulted, you have built a history, we can take you back.
So that's the advantage
go and get it from the branch.
An institution. Talk to them.
Talk to them.
Okay. I think
any branch.
What about a transactional? Wait. He was asking about if he's got a transactional account, right? So is one qualified for a loan? In fact,
matter
more
the
than
account.
Qualified. Because you're
a
transacting,
transactional account just means that we don't charge you ledger fees and you only pay as you use it. So
Okay. A question here. There's a question here. Okay, do you have a project where I can save and then buy whatever goal I want? I think you talked about that. That's like Vuma.
There's goal. It's actually called target savings. So you set a target and then you can put whatever it is you want to be collecting from that wallet or account.
Okay.
But yes, they are there. I appreciate, of course, sometimes people don't know that. Like even goal account, you recall the for goal account. So for goal account now, we even put it on mobile. So we put it on your SSD. Now we're also going to put it on the app so that you can just set up for yourself as a customer. Even see your existing goal accounts. You can have as many goal accounts as you want. You want it to be taking this much, then it will do that.
What's the biggest amount of money I can borrow on a mobile product?
It has no limit. Like
on digital
let's say like the business guys have no limits whatsoever. Because it's basically like dealers. They are dealers. We do 50 mic on mobile. So the limits are really about what is your capacity. What is the capacity the system has gauged you to have. So like we do retailer financing with Ruby's And there that dealer can pay for his fuel tankers on mobile.
Okay. So, now let me ask you, do you physically chase people?
Oh, hell no. We don't run. We don't like running.
It's all digital.
Yeah, we don't do physical.
Guys won't come for you.
Yeah.
Also,
we have debt collection agencies.
Yeah.
So I keep telling people, what you don't want to do is deteriorate the relationship so far that you end up where the bank and you have divorced.
Right.
So just talk to the bank so that you don't figure there. But yes, we give third parties. We do sell to third parties. That's a fact.
In fact, let me tell you something. Let me ask you something. I mean, obviously, they're partners with you. M-Pesa, do you think M-Pesa like benefited financial institutions or also like individuals in terms of now it's just the easiest platform to just know your habits, right?
Yeah.
You know your financial habits and stuff like that. You rely on those records a lot?
Which ones?
I mean, like that thing of your borrowing. I mean, like if I'm on M-Pesa, it's the thing that shows you have been. Do banks do that? Do I check into
Okay, so it's there are specific products that do that. So Fuliza, for instance, to set a Fuliza limit, which is done by NCBA, that one, it is done because of your M-Pesa transactions.
Okay.
KCB M-Pesa is at KCB, yes, but we base it on your M-Pesa transactions.
M-Pesa transactions.
Yeah.
So it came and changed everything. That's the easiest place to go, or banks don't
yeah.
get those?
Okay. No. What it is scale up.
Right.
So usually, what used to happen with banks, remember, is that they would have rather small customer bases. That's why we have 44 banks versus 3 telcos. 3 telcos.
Yes.
So no. Let me go, wait. You're messing with my point. Okay. What was I saying? So the benefit is that now the customer base could be reached very fast. What digital did for the average Kenyan is that now we can onboard you instantly, and we have more than one place of checking. What we do with KYC, which is know your customer information, is that we like to be able to tell from more than one source. So do you remember the exercise where everyone was told you have to go with an ID and to confirm your phone line, your phone number with your ID?
Yeah.
That was extremely important, because now when you join KCB M-Pesa, I have the information I have from IPRS, the government database, that says this is the ID of this guy, this is the name, and this is the ID number. Then I say, Safaricom, confirm that this name with this ID number has this phone number. Then I use that and I say, aya, nipe transactions zake.
Okay.
Aya, this is the amount I'm willing to risk with this chap.
Right.
Then we say, aya, sawa, tuendele hivyo. So that is the benefit. That's what I'm saying about the infrastructure that is Kenya.
Right.
So these things evolved over time, because trust me, it wasn't some ingenious person was sitting in a corner and then said, do you know what I'm going to do? Oh yeah,
I've got this idea. Look at me.
But these things evolved. So as they evolved, the benefit of it is that now Kenya is where it's at. Where Kenyans can take it for granted that I just go to my phone and I can get a loan, I can order food, I can do so much with my phone. It's ridiculous. That's why you look up when you don't have your phone, you're like, where's my phone, where's my phone, where's my phone?
Responsibility. Actually, even that thing that you're talking about, we're having a conversation over here just now. Then somebody said, you know, and this I'm looking for, like, what are those? I mean, obviously, we know those things of don't give away PIN, but security measures that you can take yourself on digital, because somebody said that they had been listed because of a 2K
that they didn't take.
That they didn't take, and there's a time there, you know, remember those two things of the PUK, I think somebody went, I don't know, something like that. Is it like even how people freak out, like, me, I'll tell you the truth. When I'm signing things at like a place for...
You never sign your real signature.
Not my real signature.
Not your real ID.
Fake ID number. I work another number. I don't know if you guys have been called Because like that thing of cases of like fraud, like how can somebody pay and then take a digital loan? What do you watch out for?
Okay, so I'll tell you something. Right. Most people are done what we call social engineering. So social engineering is this smart-sounding character who calls you out of nowhere and tells you the way the bank needs you to share your phone number. We need to change your PIN. Please tell me the code that we have sent you, because they know the process, because it's open, it's in the world. If anything, we make videos and broadcast them. But that is because we keep telling people the bank will never call you to get your PIN, or your one-time password, your OTP. We never ask for those things.
Yeah.
We are like, if it's not working, enda kwa branch, uone kama watakusaidia.
Right.
Why do people give away their information on the phone?
Don't.
Who do you know you're talking to?
Yeah.
Who are you talking to?
Exactly.
You don't know who you're talking to. I
Yeah.
don't care how they sound.
Yeah.
You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know their voice. So
Even-
why are you answering
yeah,
them?
even the
Tell
guy-
them when they call you, I'll go to the branch, I'm fine. Because there's a KCB branch near everyone. So why not go to the branch and double check? Or actually hang up and double check your phone.
Yeah.
And most of the time you'll find there's nothing wrong. This person was just intimidating
Yeah,
you. So that's what we call social engineering.
Yeah.
That's the first thing most people need to learn. Banks never call
That's the
to
other
get your
bank.
information.
Committee Commercial
Yeah,
Bank.
yeah.
KCB, the one for committee. When they decide, okay, yeah.
I didn't think they are not in committee. They were in that. What was that place called? I don't want to spoil some poor town's name.
Where?
But the one where were those guys who were on telly with all the phones and SIM cards. I forget the place. But there was a place.
Yeah.
But my point is this.
Okay, yeah.
The bank will never ask.
Yeah.
The bank can never ask.
Right.
In fact, the bank doesn't know anyone's PIN. In fact, giving us the PIN is useless.
Yeah.
All of them are hashed, which is blocked.
Yeah.
So there is no way for the system. We don't know. It's you who decides. Only you know.
Right.
We don't know. If you lose it, we give you a blank look.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the system and try and restart you again. And can only restart you, and then you can be the only one to set. We can't even set it from the side of the bank.
Yeah, yeah.
So the only time someone can take your credentials is you gave them, or you
gave
left
them.
them and your family member helped themselves.
Yeah,
We can't help you.
sleep-talking, nini.
You know.
Yeah.
I always tell people, Auntie, please know where your son is so
Okay.
that you can ask. I don't know why I do that, and I have a son. It's just so wrong. It's so wrong. I don't know why I assume daughters would never do it, but I'm sorry, it just stands to reason. Okay, I'm moving on from that
Okay.
point. Okay, so
yeah.
here's my perspective. A, don't allow social engineering to be done, and you don't give out your PIN.
Right.
Two, you don't need to keep your PIN in written form. Choose a PIN you can remember.
Yeah.
Because actually, we don't really ask people to change their PIN. We have had the same PIN for donkey years. So put a PIN together and don't make it your birthday or your kid's birthday.
I've been
or
seeing-
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, we blocked all those, all the obvious ones as much as we could.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
4 zeros.
Yeah, yeah.
The system will never allow you to put those as
Yeah, in
passwords.
fact, I've been seeing messages coming through, I think, from those telcos and stuff like that, saying, guys, stop using things that
Yes,
are so obvious
obvious.
as your PIN.
And never, ever, ever send your PIN on SMS.
Right.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Of course.
Of course, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Don't.
Then-
So, it's the same as writing it down.
There's something else, because we're talking about borrowing from like all whatever's, and I remember you talked about circles and stuff like that. If there's a place that I've seen guys really umiering, it's sometimes like those, especially like, we're talking about borrowing generally, right? These like circle loans, like where you guarantee a guy, then a guy has helped. Like I remember there was a certain
You're
story.
where you are. That's why you should only guarantee for your
Some
people.
organization I worked with, some guy, whatever, and then the guy scattered to some place in a region. He started his own business and he became very successful there. But guys were crying.
And you'd not even pay even after that.
Yeah, but whatever. So like that thing of
Character, I tell you, character matters.
yeah? Be careful who you're
Yeah,
surrounded with.
be careful who you surround yourself with.
Okay.
Because there isn't much. It's like when people complain about a till.
Yeah.
You sent money to a till which is terminating in a bank account.
Right.
Then you want the bank to go into that person's account and refund you the money, and you're the one who sent it to the wrong till number. That's impossible.
Yeah.
You expect us to respect your bank account.
Right.
We have to respect everybody's bank account.
Right.
So we cannot go in without their permission. So that's one of the big frustrations actually I've noted a lot of people are having. So I always tell people, when you're typing, right? That's why I want us to really get into QR codes. But when you're typing in that number of the till,
Right.
check again,
Yeah.
before you hit send.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to get hakikisha on these things, but check and check again.
Yeah. So that's just your own personal responsibility.
You
to tell
have
us
to-
how things go. And
You really
especially,
need to be responsible.
Just signing
yeah,
for
don't
guys.
just sign.
Yeah.
Don't give your ID out to whomsoever
Yeah.
next to your phone number.
Yeah.
You know, some basic cautionary tales.
Let me ask you supposing I take a loan right now,
Yeah.
and let's say now it's 50K, or that's when you're saying hakikisha, then I realize no, I should have just taken 20. what happens and I've received the 50? Can I say no, just change it back to 20?
And you already have the 50?
Yeah.
So how do we change it? Did I not just say we have to respect your account? Can't just go into your account. Unless you want to send it, you want to repay.
Yeah.
So you repay instantly then.
Oh, yeah, with an interest. So that's my problem.
Well, yes.
There's
With the access
risk.
fee,
Yeah.
there are some risks you're taking, but yes. Yeah.
Let me ask you. Okay.
Type carefully
Type
is all
carefully.
I can say.
Interest.
Yeah.
What is interest at right now? Like for loans that I'm borrowing on mobile, like let's say on KCB rates and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we are doing about 8 to 9% monthly.
Okay. Right.
And I'll explain. Most people keep annualizing that rate, and I keep looking at them like, first of all, it's not annualized.
Okay.
It is for the month.
Right.
When you go to the annualized rate, then you go to the 18%, I believe is where we are lying at the moment.
Okay.
Or 15, depending, 16 to 18%. So for different groups of people have different rates they can access. So one of the things we are trying to do, one of the trends that's coming up now is to leverage technology to change how we are pricing, because we do want to do risk-based pricing.
Right.
Why the prices have been in that level is because if one in, call it 50 or 80 people don't repay their debt,
right,
there is no way to get that money back. Yeah. In fact, some of those loans, and depending on how many people took, are too small for you to chase. The cost of chasing it is higher than the value of the loan.
Okay.
So I can't start chasing you for that loan.
Right,
when
right.
you take 50 bob and you don't pay, even the phone call might not be worth it.
You've already spent
I've already chomed the 50 bob. So why was I calling you? So it's critical. Then for us to the more refined we get, the better we get at using the data we have. The more we can define who are the good, clean customers, the better and more refined the pricing we can get it to. Okay. So we are trying to bring in AI to see how we can change that and improve credit decisioning so that we can give better pricing, better limits.
Okay. Here's another question. How can an individual strike a balance between borrowing for necessary expenses?
What are necessary expenses?
That's what I'm wondering. And saving for the future.
Well, I think how you define your necessary expenses is the first step.
Okay.
So most people define the lifestyle they feel they deserve without taking into account where they are in life. Right. So if you've just started working, being driven to school every day was something your folks paid for, not you paid for.
Yes.
So perhaps public transport might have to be your friend at the beginning.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to incur the cost of a car. If you're on your first or second job, you might not want to be staying in a very swanky apartment.
Yes.
Because maybe you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And you might not want to have rules about not having roommates because maybe you can't afford it.
Yes.
So I think the necessary expenses and the definition of what are necessary expenses at that stage in life or different stages in life are what define your future. If you're sensible and practical, you will not go wrong. Okay. Most people, if they actually know what the right thing to do is, they just don't want to do it.
Yeah. Just get carried away by your lifestyle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But even the thing I think is that thing of like learning to scale down. Because I guess like if things have become things and you're borrowing, I mean,
like when you have a tenant who won't pay, man, if you can't pay the rent, just move to the one you can afford.
Yeah.
Stop stressing everyone in the pipeline.
Exactly.
Yeah, just
in pipeline.
In the pipeline, as in the pipeline.
As in
about
my
the landlord,
apana,
you know, don't stress because me, I'm a landlord.
Okay.
No, so don't stress the everyone in the Nino.
Yeah.
Your children, they have to eat less quality food.
Yeah.
Mama hajafanya nywele in sijui how long. Landlord anakaanga kigonga mlango. You know, just move to the one your lane. Stick to your lane.
Stick to your lane.
So it's a fair. I think it is what's called conventional wisdom.
Conventional wisdom.
Yes.
So it's true. Like, but so basically, in fact, that's the thing I used to say. You borrow for whatever you're borrowing for, but as long as you know that you're going to pay it,
you have to repay it.
Yeah.
And
because
since you might not bounce cash out, it's very important to have really thought through how that repayment is going to work.
Yeah.
And then, if it is tough, please go see a banker and reschedule that payment, restructure it. Assuming they agree with you. And by the way, don't borrow assuming they'll agree with you.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. There are some formulas that people sometimes have. People in, creative people in finance. They say, is there like basic good practices of if your income is this much in a month, don't
exceed this much in borrowing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give you the rule of thumb that banks actually have for their employees.
Okay.
They created for employees. So a third of your income is going to pay tax.
Okay.
Right. All responsible Kenyans. Yes.
It's not more nowadays.
No, it's a third. It's a third. It's not drifted that far. It's still around about a third.
Right.
A third will go to pay your taxes. That's from your gross.
Right.
So a third. Now you're left with your net, which was 2/3. The rule of thumb is that whatever you're borrowing should not exceed a third of your gross, so that you do your income in 2/3. 1/3 went to tax.
Okay.
1/3 went to borrowing.
Okay.
1/3 went to left to me to decide what to do with.
So you should not.
And the borrowing should never be frivolous. Ever.
Right.
Don't borrow without knowing where it is going to go.
Right.
Without a plan for it, and not for consuming.
Okay. A third of
your gross. Yeah.
Don't borrow above that. It's just a
rule. Yeah. Just you work in a bank, because banks lend to their staff.
Right.
Will never lend you more than a third of your gross.
Okay.
You must remain with a third of your gross. The reason that is so important is because the assumption is that at the very least, you should be able to feed and clothe yourself and come to work on a third of your gross.
That thing that you're saying about biashara, it struck me, because that's the thing that guys always talk about. It's like always like the pain. I've got this idea, working capital. I've got this working capital. I mean, how do you beat that situation? Because you've just started your biashara.
Yeah,
but you've got an idea, but where am I going to get this
capital to put into it? Yeah. It's actually, it's an interesting question which we are all pondering how to resolve for the country, and how do we resolve it at scale.
Yeah.
Because hoping that people can access money either from commercial institutions like ours or the government is a hope strategy.
Right.
So you want to be able to figure out. I mean, we've been thinking, the reason we started Lions, and if you remember when we were doing it, was because we know there are people who want to invest in businesses and ideas that people have.
Right.
So the only advice I have for people around that is, see if you can get people who can believe in your idea, and don't be afraid of partners. But the way people fear partners so much. And I don't believe you can go anywhere alone. You'll go much further with other people with you. If it is such a great idea, how come you can't get anyone to buy into it?
That's true. In fact, there's a very, if we flip that thing, there's a very interesting conversation we had. There's a guy, I think, from the Middle East group of guys having a drink, and this guy is like, he was asking, like, Kenyans, you guys are quite interesting, because he's saying, like, our obsession is, let me invest in a plot of land.
Oh, that's a terrible idea.
Our obsession is, that, and let me buy another plot of land, another plot of land, then try and get to that point of
and then flip.
And then flip it. The guy was asking, there's something like, if our culture can start getting into noted that if you've got this money, why can't you invest in a business?
Yes.
In somebody,
or if you
like,
bought the plot, do value add.
Yeah, but I'm saying in terms of investing in somebody's, like you put in, the venture capitalist for, this kid has got this idea of this gaming thing, but it's never been in our...
It's not in our DNA, huh?
It's not in our
DNA.
DNA.
So we really need to end, but the first step to change any culture is just to start that habit.
Right.
So I'm still determined to find vehicles that can help us achieve that.
Right.
Because we really want to see that those ideas come to life. We still want to be the fintech savannah of the world. So we are determined that should still happen. And by the way, credit to Kenyans, there are almost 100,000 fintechs in Kenya.
100,000 fintechs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. People who are doing financial technology businesses.
Right.
Yes. And they are not all Shylocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are building all sorts of solutions.
Right.
That, in fact, I keep telling people all the time, one of the critical things, we have put up a gateway so that we can give those same people APIs so that they can be able to integrate to the bank and use KCB to collect, because they wouldn't have permission to collect. So you have a great idea, you want to be able to sell, you integrate to the bank, and then you can get even your M-Pesa Express API, you can get the bank APIs. You can collect from any bank. You can collect card payments. You know, like when we were talking about wallets, why they matter and why they're in Forex, is because people do a lot of bringing in of stuff that they are ordering from outside Kenya. You need to be able to pay for them online. So one of the, I think it's changing slowly, Teddy. But if you ask me, it's changing quite a bit, because the number of Instagram businesses, Facebook businesses that I have heard of, I mean, everyone I know, no one buys anything physically anymore. Everyone orders everything they know. So I think the question is it only in the big towns where this phenomenon exists properly? Is it spreading everywhere? How involved is it? Can you run that business from your home? And that's another reason working capital becomes a problem. When people load in, I must have an office. Why must you have an office?
I must have,
Why? People start businesses in their homes all the time. Don't load costs you don't need to.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting thing. Let me ask you. As long as I have an ID, I can borrow on any of your platforms. Because the most interesting thing I've noticed,
and you have a credit history.
Yes. Because like Gen Z, the younger guys, and the Gen Alpha now, these guys, the way I see it, guys are all concentrated on me. I want to do my own thing. So I think there's a very interesting space for borrowing.
We did quite a bit of training with the Tujiajiri program, and one of the biggest challenges we noted was getting them to get together into groups and work together to build businesses. Because while the bank and the foundation was willing to lend the money and even give them tools, like to do, say, hydroponics farming or do a salon, or someone wants to, whatever it is you want to start, even if it's an online business, we would prefer if there was more than one person. So that we can give you proper services, because you will need a marketer to think through how to sell your products. You'll need an accountant to help you know how to keep your books, because like we said, you must be able to separate your personal and business finances. But most people want to go it alone. And I think that's not, it's not, you need someone even to give you a push. When you work out, isn't it better when you work out with many people?
I know that story. I've tried things. There's some things I tried alone. It was good. I was like, there's this money coming. There's this money coming. God came and harvested me. It was a harvesting. Not that whatever, it's money, that definitely. But I'm like, you mean there's this for taxes? Because not partnering.
Because you need information. Hardly anyone knows everything. So the more people you have around you, in fact, we always tell people, ask the universe, and it will give you an answer.
Very true.
So me, I tell the world my problems constantly. Then I see who comes up with a sensible response, and I say, that's the one.
Okay, so I think we've got like a minute left. Parting shot.
Remember, don't borrow if you don't know what you're going to do with it. Make sure you know your ability to repay. Do not take debt if you're not willing to repay, because that history will follow you, and it's just not worth it. Right? And the best lenders are the banks, because they give you the best price. And it is very important not to take many loans and end up in a merry-go-round. I mean, I don't know what else I can add. And don't tell anyone your PIN. Yes. Please don't tell anyone your PIN.
So that's it. It's been awesome. FB Live with KCB, Digital Financial Services Director, Angela Mwirigi. It's been awesome. I mean, people are feeling your vibe, yani, the energy, kila kitu. KCB is a cool place, down to earth. This is how we roll. This is how we talk. So thank you so much, and I hope we can really do this again. For all the comments, for everyone who was tuned in, everyone who was, comments, rants and raves, thank you so much. And we'll try and do more of this again and again and again. Let me go and pay my loan.